After a relentless pursuit, I finally made the gorgeous doctor I idolized my wife. But in 5 years of marriage, we've never been intimate. It's all because she has severe misophobia and hates physical contact with people. I once kissed her on the lips, and her reaction was so extreme that she ran to the bathroom and threw up. Even though she later explained it was an involuntary physical reflex and not my fault, I was hurt for a long time. After she was assigned to a post in Chicago and we'd been living apart for a year, I decided to fly there on our 5th anniversary to surprise her. But there, at the entrance of a Chicago medical institute, I saw her, the woman who normally loathed any touch, taking off another man's soaked shoes and socks. "You're still like a child who can't take care of himself," she said. I just stood there in the downpour, holding a bouquet of roses, looking like a drowned rat. In the distance, the man, dressed in a well-tailored suit, had his face turned slightly as he laughed and talked with Chloe. I had never seen Chloe with such a gentle expression, as if all her icy walls had melted away. When he spoke, she would smile softly, her eyes locked on his, never once looking away. In that moment, I suddenly didn't want her anymore. I don't know how much time passed before Chloe finally noticed me standing in the rain. Her smile faded slightly, and she looked up to say something gentle to the man before walking directly toward me under her umbrella. "What are you doing here?" Her voice held a note of annoyance at being interrupted. I offered her the roses, my smile feeling strained. "Happy 5th anniversary." Before Chloe could even take the flowers, the man's voice called out from the distance. "The meeting is about to start." After hearing him, she turned to me, her face blank, and said, "Follow me." I remained frozen for a moment before finally following Chloe's lead. When we reached the other man, he instinctively fell into step right beside her. They walked shoulder to shoulder ahead of me, whispering to each other from time to time. Their conversation was filled with complex medical jargon that was completely over my head. But I did learn his name was Alex, and that he and Chloe were very close. I tried several times to get a private word with Chloe, but Alex always seemed to interrupt, whether intentionally or not. When we finally reached the conference room, Alex looked at me and suddenly said in Spanish, "Is this your husband from back home? He doesn't seem like your type at all." Whether it was intentional or not, Chloe replied in Spanish as well, "Being my type isn't important. Being a good fit is." They both assumed I couldn't understand, but the truth is, I took Spanish classes 5 years ago when I was trying to win Chloe over. After Alex went into the conference room, Chloe finally looked at me, her tone as cold as ever. "I have a meeting. Wait for me out here." She spoke to me as if I were a complete stranger. My throat felt dry. "Okay," I managed. After she went inside, I looked down at the roses in my hands. They were already starting to wilt, just like my feelings for Chloe, sustained for 5 years by my own unrequited love, ultimately amounting to nothing. I wiped the rain from my face and tossed the flowers I could no longer give her into a nearby trash can. My first instinct was to fly straight back home, but I felt I needed to wait for Chloe to come out and get some closure. I just never imagined I'd be waiting for 2 hours. When the meeting finally ended, Chloe and I went back to her apartment. It was a studio provided by the Institute, spotless and impeccably clean. The only thing that seemed out of place with Chloe's minimalist, cold personality was a colorful dream catcher hanging in the entryway. Chloe brought me a new pair of slippers, but I couldn't help but notice a worn pair of men's slippers next to them. The pattern on his slippers was a perfect match for the ones she was wearing. "I ordered you some new toiletries online. They'll be here soon," she said. "Have a seat." Then, with detached consideration, Chloe added, "You must be hungry. I'll make you some pasta." She was always like this with me, polite yet distant, treating me with less warmth than she showed her colleagues. As I watched Chloe's silhouette moving in the kitchen, I walked over to the entryway and took down the dream catcher. On the back, 2 small lines were embroidered, "Sweet dreams, Dr. Davis." From Alex. I kept my expression neutral and hung it back up. I don't know how to describe what I was feeling. I had already decided I was done with Chloe, yet seeing this still sent a pang of uncontrollable sadness through me. After all, I had loved her for 6 years. You can't just turn off feelings like that. Exhausted from the long trip, I sat down on the living room sofa to rest, when suddenly Chloe's phone lit up on the coffee table. I was close enough to see the message was from a contact named Alex. In 5 years of marriage, I had never once looked at Chloe's phone, but today, I couldn't stop myself from picking it up. The message from Alex read, "If you had come looking for me sooner all those years ago, would I be the one sitting next to you right now?" Reading that, I knew for certain Alex was her first love. I watched the notification fade, revealing Chloe's lock screen. It was a picture of Alex from behind, wearing a graduation gown. For 5 years, my wife had been using a photo of her ex-boyfriend as her phone's wallpaper. In that instant, I truly understood how little I mattered in her world. The clatter of dishes came from the kitchen. I turned off the screen and placed the phone back on the table, walking over to the kitchen island as if nothing had happened. Chloe didn't notice anything was wrong. She just handed me a fork. "Here, try it. Don't force yourself if you don't like it." I took the fork without looking at her and asked quietly, "Can you tell me what's going on with you and Alex?" Chloe answered calmly, "Alex is my ex. We were together for 8 years, we almost got married. But we had different ideas about the future. He wanted to build his career abroad, and I wanted to stay in the States." She said it casually, but I could hear a faint tremor in her usually steady voice. I focused on my pasta. Is that all there is to it? Later, we lay in bed, an ocean of unspoken thoughts separating us on either side. Just then, Chloe suddenly took my hand. I froze. Back home, even though we slept in the same bed, she would flinch away every time I touched her. This was the first time she had ever initiated contact. I thought she was going to explain everything that had happened, but instead she said, "Ethan, I've decided to move here permanently." My hand went cold in hers. A year ago, she told me this was just a 1-week business trip. Then 1 week turned into another, and another while I stayed behind, taking care of her parents, always believing she would eventually come home. But now, she was unilaterally informing me she was staying. I knew she wasn't staying for her own sake, but at that point, I had no desire to try and change her mind. I spoke slowly. "That's great. It's just a shame it rains so much here. You'll have to take good care of yourself." She seemed surprised that I agreed so easily. She squeezed my hand again and said, "Ethan." I didn't answer. I just closed my eyes, my decision already made. I would be leaving alone. I've always hated this city. I told her before how much I disliked the rain. Late that night, Chloe's phone kept vibrating. I knew it was Alex messaging her. After a while, Chloe sat up. "Alex caught his ex-wife cheating during a thunderstorm," she whispered. "He gets terrified of them now. I'm going to go sit with him." As if trying to reassure me, she added, "I'll be back soon." I didn't respond, feigning sleep, but I knew with absolute certainty that this time, I wouldn't be there waiting for her when she returned. After Chloe left, I got out of bed, grabbed my phone from the charger, and booked a 4 a.m. flight. It was the earliest one I could get from Chicago back to Boston. I then took my rain-soaked clothes from earlier out of the dryer and changed out of the ill-fitting outfit Chloe had bought for me. I folded the clothes she'd given me and left them on the sofa. My flight was in an hour and a half. I took one last look around the apartment I'd been in for less than 4 hours, then pulled a small, elegant box from my backpack. It was a lady's Audemars Piguet Royal Oak watch, worth over $30,000. I had scrimped and saved for 5 years, cashing out half of my savings certificate just to afford it. It was meant to be her 5th anniversary gift, but now it would serve as the final punctuation mark on our laughable marriage. I took a piece of paper and wrote, "Chloe, this is my last gift to you. Goodbye." I placed the note next to the watch box and put on my backpack, which suddenly felt much lighter. The door clicked shut behind me, and I walked away without a single glance back. Before the plane took off, I sent Chloe a voice message in Spanish. "Dr. Davis, you could have just been honest with me. You didn't have to hide everything. For 5 years, I've known the person you truly love is Alex. I saw his messages. I know you decided to stay in Chicago for him, and I know your phone's wallpaper is a picture of him from college graduation. You should have told me sooner. It would have saved you 5 years. When you have a chance to come back to Boston, we're getting a divorce." Then I hit send. Sitting on the plane, I couldn't help but think back on my 5 years with Chloe. When I had surgery for a kidney stone and needed someone to stay with me, I was alone. When I had a difficult parent-teacher conference, I was alone. When my car got a flat tire on the highway and my phone died, I was alone. Even when a light bulb burned out or a pipe burst at home, I was the one who fixed it. If that was the case, why was I even married? I stared out the window at the blue sky and white clouds, and I slipped the wedding ring I'd worn for 5 years off my finger. 10 hours later, the plane finally landed at Logan International Airport. I turned on my phone to a single message from Chloe. "We can talk about this when I get back." I didn't reply. I just dropped my wedding ring into the nearest trash can. When I got back to the house, Chloe's parents were already waiting at the door. They knew I was coming back from Chicago and had cooked a huge meal. Her father took my bag, and her mother grabbed my arm, peering behind me. "Ethan, why are you by yourself?" I didn't see any point in hiding it. "Mom, Dad," I said, "I want a divorce from Chloe." They both stared at me in disbelief. Her mother tightened her grip on my hand. "Why? Did Chloe get angry with you about something?" Looking into their concerned faces, I told them everything that had happened in Chicago, including Chloe's decision to move there permanently. They were both furious. They told me to sit down and eat, then they went into their room. I had no appetite. As I sat alone on the living room sofa, I could hear Chloe's mother on the phone with her. Ethan has been married to you for 5 years, and because he felt bad that your work as a doctor was so tiring, he has taken care of your father and me with everything he has. Your father has diabetes, and Ethan is the one who runs around getting his prescriptions, taking him to his checkups, and cooking separate meals for him 3 times a day. When I broke my leg last year, he was the one who helped me bathe, get dressed, and use the restroom. The doctor said it would be a long recovery, and he took care of me without a single complaint for months. By the time I got my cast off, Ethan had lost so much weight. Her mother lowered her voice. Don't think for a second that I don't know what's going on with you and Alex. He abandoned you for his career, and you still chased after him to Chicago, only to find out he was already married. And now you want to move there for him? Have you no shame? You can't be so heartless. If you care about us at all, you will get on a plane and come home right now. Otherwise, you can just wait to plan our funerals. That very night, Chloe was on a flight back to Boston. By the time she arrived, it was early the next morning. I was sitting in the living room with her parents, and the silence was deafening. After a long night, her parents had come to a decision. They knew Chloe didn't love me. Her mother took my hand, her eyes filled with guilt. Ethan, our family has wasted 5 years of your life. We can't waste the rest of it. We agree to the divorce. Don't worry, we'll have Chloe sign the house and car over to you as compensation. After saying that, they looked at Chloe. You two should talk. Chloe and I walked out to the front yard. The dim yellow light from the street lamp cast our shadows long across the lawn. She finally spoke. Alex's ex-wife has mental health issues and she cheated on him. I only wanted to stay in Chicago because I was worried about him. As for the wallpaper, I've had it for years, I just never changed it. If it bothers you, I can change it to a picture of you. Chloe's evasive answers just made me feel tired. It sounded like she was compromising, but I knew she really thought I was making a big deal out of nothing. But it's always the accumulation of 1,000 little things that finally destroys a marriage. I looked down. There's no need for that, I said quietly. I don't need it. I looked up into her face. Chloe, if you have ever had even the slightest feeling for me in these 5 years, you'll come with me to file for divorce tomorrow morning. Chloe seemed to hesitate. Just then, a voice came from her car parked down the street. Chloe, are you guys done talking? It was Alex. I looked over and saw him getting out of the car. He had a bandage on his forehead and scrapes on his face. Chloe quickly explained, Alex's ex-wife got out on bail yesterday, and they got into a fight. I couldn't leave him alone in Chicago, so I brought him back with me. Looking from Alex in the car to Chloe in front of me, everything suddenly became crystal clear. I said to Chloe, 9 a.m. City Hall. I never imagined that Alex would be there when I divorced Chloe. Are you sure about this? Once we sign, there's no going back, Chloe asked casually as we stood at the clerk's window. She was so calm, so confident, certain that I didn't really mean it. After loving her for 6 years, I could read her every expression. I looked at her seriously and answered with a single word, yes. Then I quickly signed my name. Ethan. Chloe faltered for a second, but then, without any more hesitation, she signed the papers too. The entire process took less than an hour. Walking out of City Hall with the flimsy divorce certificate in my hand felt surreal. Chloe suddenly asked, where are you headed? I can give you a ride. Before I could answer, Alex walked right up to us. I'm not feeling well, he said. Let's go home. She glanced at me. You should take him home, I said flatly. I'll get a cab. I had walked through 5 years of our marriage alone. Now that it was over, I certainly didn't need her to see me off. I was about to leave when Chloe instinctively grabbed my hand. Is there something else? I asked. She seemed to hesitate for a moment. Take care of yourself. I nodded, and as she released my hand, her eyes fell on my bare ring finger. Chloe froze. I had worn that ring since the day we got engaged. I never even took it off in the shower. She looked like she was about to say something, but Alex stepped forward. Mr. Miller, thank you for being so decisive. Chloe and I will be heading back to Chicago soon, and we'll be bringing her parents with us. It's probably best if you two don't contact each other from now on. Hearing that, I smiled at him. Don't worry. Unlike you, I don't go crawling back to my exes. I left him with a stunned look on his face, got into a taxi without a backward glance, and didn't look at Chloe again. An hour later, I was home. The first thing I did was delete Chloe from my contacts. The second was to burn our wedding photos. The third was to throw out every piece of clothing, every pair of shoes, and every personal item she had ever left in the house. Soon, there was no trace of Chloe left. Looking around the now empty house, I felt a massive weight lift off my shoulders. I used to be so terrified of losing her. But now that she was actually gone, I realized my world was exactly the same. She wasn't essential. My daily routine didn't change much. On weekdays, it was just school and home. I'd teach during the day, then maybe grab dinner with colleagues at the school cafeteria or order takeout with my friends. Since I no longer had to care for Chloe's parents, on weekends I could visit my own family, having coffee with my dad and playing cards with my mom. Without the title of Chloe's husband, I was free. I could go wherever I wanted, stay out as late as I wanted. I deleted the Chicago weather app from my phone and stopped checking it constantly, no longer afraid of missing a message from her. I was no longer insecure, no longer agonizing over the pathetic scraps of affection she threw my way. I stopped having sleepless nights filled with dreams of her leaving me. It felt as though all the unhappiness in my life had vanished right along with her. Occasionally, I'd hear updates about Chloe and Alex in Chicago through mutual friends or her parents. When I learned they apparently hadn't gotten together, I felt nothing at all. In the 6 months since the divorce, I'd published several academic papers and was promoted to lead teacher. Soon, winter break arrived. As I walked off the school grounds, I turned on the phone I'd had off for a faculty meeting. Instantly, my screen flooded with over 99 notifications. The most recent was from an unknown number, with just 2 words, "It's me." I looked up and saw her standing across the street. It was Chloe, for the first time in 6 months. She was much thinner, which made her features seem even colder, more distant. Our eyes met, and she quickly stubbed out the cigarette she was holding. The sidewalk was crowded, but Chloe moved against the flow of people toward me. "Ethan," she said, "I made a mistake." I stared at her pale face, feeling a little dazed. She seemed to have changed so much and yet not at all. She wore a white dress, her expression cool and composed. The only difference was, my heart no longer skipped a beat when I saw her. Facing her earnest gaze, I asked, "A mistake about what?" Chloe looked at me steadily. "Let's get back together," she said softly. Hearing that, I shook my head firmly, my tone leaving no room for discussion. "That's impossible. I'm happy on my own now." Chloe seemed taken aback by my response. She looked stunned for a second before her cool, detached mask slipped back into place. She pressed her lips together, her expression softening. "Then let me buy you dinner." I looked at her, so poised and in control. She hadn't changed, always so composed, able to save face even in rejection. This time, I didn't say no. Chloe was driving a Bentley Bentayga. The moment I got into the passenger seat, she leaned over to buckle my seatbelt for me. I was stunned. For the 5 years we were married, we were like strangers tied together by a legal document. I knew about her misophobia, her aversion to physical contact, so I never expected her to do something like this. Now, 6 months after our divorce, her sudden gesture just felt incredibly awkward. I mumbled an uncomfortable, "Thanks." Chloe stared straight ahead. "You're welcome." I had set the GPS for a restaurant near the school, a cheap and cheerful hot pot joint. I expected her to suggest we go somewhere else. She never used to set foot in casual places like this. As a doctor, she was always convinced that restaurant food was unsanitary and not fresh. But this time, Chloe didn't say a word. We found a table by the window, and I confidently took the menu from the server and ordered. Spicy beef, chili tripe, Szechuan rabbit, all my personal favorites. When I was done, I handed the menu to Chloe. "Get whatever you want." Chloe looked surprised for a moment, clearly taken aback that I was no longer catering to her every need. She just added a few simple vegetable dishes to the order. The restaurant was loud and crowded. At the table next to us, a young woman was carefully wiping down her boyfriend's bowl and chopsticks. I watched as Chloe picked up her own bowl and clumsily poured hot tea over it to clean it. I was shocked. She seemed to burn her fingers and handed the bowl to me with the tips of her fingers flushed red, her cool expression unchanged. I started to say something, then stopped, but finally spoke up. "You don't have to do that for me. We're just friends now at best. We can each take care of ourselves." Chloe didn't respond to that directly. Instead, she said, "Ethan, I've done a lot of thinking these past 6 months. I'm sorry I wasn't a good partner to you." I was completely blindsided and didn't know what to say. Chloe gave a small smile, as if to tell me not to feel pressured. Her voice was soft. "I've turned down the permanent position at the institute. I'm staying here in Boston now. My parents prefer it here anyway. They couldn't even find anyone to talk to in Chicago. Besides, it rains there all the time. It's not just you who dislikes it. I don't either." At that, I snapped my head up to look at her, meeting her gaze, which was a mixture of a soft smile and a deep, hidden guilt. I didn't know what the point was of her remembering that now. I had told her I didn't like Chicago because of the constant rain, yet she had stayed there for a year for Alex, and had even decided to move there permanently. Now that I had finally put that rainy city behind me, she was bringing it all up again. I barely tasted the food, and the meal ended quickly. Outside the restaurant, Chloe suddenly looked at me. "Ethan," she said quietly, "if we're just friends, could you maybe unblock my number?" I was silent for a few seconds before answering bluntly, "As long as you don't bring up getting back together and don't harass me, fine." Chloe paused, then nodded. "Okay." I sighed, pulled out my phone, and unblocked her number. Chloe's eyes brightened, and a small smile touched her lips. She offered to drive me home again, but I politely refused. One dinner with my ex-wife was enough. I had no plans for any further contact. When I got home, I sent Chloe money for my half of the dinner with the note, "We're even." After I showered, I got a call from my former mother-in-law. She had called me occasionally over the past 6 months, just to check in or to talk about how things were going for her and Chloe's father in Chicago. I lay on my bed with the phone on speaker. "Ethan, your uncle and I are coming back to Boston in a few days. This half year in Chicago has been miserable. Everyone speaks English so fast, and the food is so bland. We thought we were coming here for a nice visit, but we ended up having to take care of Alex every day. I had to cook for him, clean his house, and his ex-wife kept coming around to cause trouble. Your uncle's blood pressure is already high, and with his diabetes, all the stress has given him heart problems. He's a nervous wreck at night and can't sleep. We've both lost so much weight. Ethan, our family really lost out when we lost you." She said something like that almost every time she called. She was always full of regret, but she never once mentioned Chloe and me getting back together. So I just treated her and her husband like any other older relatives, listening to their complaints and asking about their health. The call ended half an hour later. I saw I had 3 unread iMessages from Chloe. I opened them. "Are you home yet? Text me when you get in. Ethan, I've missed you so much these past 6 months. Good night." Was this the same quiet, reserved Chloe I knew? I could hardly believe my eyes. I had no idea what had happened to her over the last 6 months to make the once silent and withdrawn woman so direct with her feelings. My own feelings were a complicated mess as I closed the message thread and turned off my phone without replying. The next morning, as I was heading out for work, I saw Chloe standing under the tree in my front yard, holding a bouquet of flowers. She walked up to me as soon as she saw me, her expression perfectly composed. "Good morning." She was holding a huge bouquet of daisies. I took a step back. "Chloe, didn't we agree you wouldn't harass me?" Hearing the coldness in my voice, Chloe seemed to realize she'd crossed a line and looked down. "I promised not to talk about getting back together," she said, "but I should have the right to try and win you back, shouldn't I? I know I hurt you, and I just want to try and make it up to you." I glanced at my watch, unwilling to get drawn into a long conversation. "I told you when we got divorced," I said coldly. "I don't go back to my exes." I don't know if my words hurt her, but she didn't follow me. Instead, she started sending me good morning and good night texts every single day, reminding me to dress warmly or bring an umbrella. And every morning, I would find a fresh bouquet of daisies on the hood of my car. After several weeks of this, I finally reached my breaking point. I put on a face mask, grabbed the daisies, and walked over to Chloe's car parked down the street. I knocked politely on the window, and when her cool face appeared, I tossed the bouquet onto her lap. Chloe looked confused. I crossed my arms, my voice tight with a mixture of fatigue and frustration. "Chloe, whether you're trying to make amends or win me back, you could at least try to get it right. After all this time, you still don't know I'm allergic to daisies? It's pathetic." As I said it, I saw the color drain from Chloe's face. For a fleeting moment, her icy composure shattered, replaced by a look of utter confusion and helplessness. A crack of pure frustration appeared in her perfect facade, but I had no patience left to waste on her. "Chloe, you can't unring a bell. We're adults. I don't need your belated attempts to make things right. All they do is make the 6 years I spent loving you feel like a complete joke." My anger was probably fueled by the memory of what happened in Chicago. I couldn't help but remember the bouquet of lilies of the valley she had given Alex for his birthday. They had been broken up for 7 years, yet she still remembered his favorite flower. And what about me, her husband of 5 years? After I had made it clear we were done, this was her grand attempt at winning me back? By proving she didn't even know I had an allergy? The irony was suffocating. I stared directly at Chloe. Her lips moved as if she was about to speak, but I had no desire to hear it. I hadn't felt this kind of profound, soul-crushing weariness in a very long time. "Let's just stop," I said. "Chloe, this is it. We're done." With that, I turned and walked away. I hadn't gone more than a few steps when I heard a car door slam behind me. The next thing I knew, I was wrapped in a warm embrace, the familiar, clean scent of Chloe filling my senses. Before the divorce, I would have been ecstatic. Chloe, finally overcoming her aversion to touch me, finally hugging me. But this was 6 months after we had separated. It was too late. In every possible sense of the word, it was too late. I pulled her arms off me and turned to face her. "We need to talk." I took Chloe back to my house, the house we had shared for 4 years. Only now there was nothing of her left in it. In the last 6 months, I had rearranged the furniture and even gotten a British short-hair kitten. The moment my cat saw Chloe, it arched its back and hissed. I bent down, scooped him up, and stroked his head to calm him down. Chloe's brow furrowed slightly. I knew her mysophobia was kicking in. She had never liked creatures that shed, and at one point that had included me. In the past, I would have been careful to respect her feelings. Now, I just tossed her a pair of disposable slippers still in the plastic. I'd long since replaced the living room sofa with a giant beanbag chair and a retro green armchair I'd wanted for ages. I sat down in the beanbag chair with the cat in my lap and gestured for Chloe to take a seat. I wanted to get this over with, so I didn't even offer her a glass of water. I got straight to the point. "Chloe, I can see you're trying to change, but it's too late. I know there's this thing about first loves, this need for some kind of redemption story. And honestly, if you had never married me, none of this would be a problem. But you did marry me and you still did all those things. You should have either cleared your heart of him before you said yes, or you should have never said yes at all." Chloe's face went pale. "Ethan, I didn't know." I nodded. "You're right, you didn't know then. But you know now. I don't need you to make it up to me, and I will never, ever get back together with you. Chloe, I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering how I measure up to Alex. I don't want to have to analyze whether you're being nice to me because you want to, or because you feel guilty. It's just too exhausting." Chloe was silent for a long time after I said that. Just when I thought she had nothing left to say, she lifted her head and met my gaze. "I understand," she said quietly. Then, she pulled a small ring box from her pocket and slowly opened it. When I saw what was inside, I froze. It was my wedding ring, the one I had thrown in the trash at Logan Airport 6 months ago. A faint, sad smile played on Chloe's lips. The day Alex and I flew back to Chicago, I heard a lost and found announcement over the airport intercom. I wasn't going to check, but for some reason, I suddenly remembered seeing your bare ring finger the day we signed the papers. She pushed the box toward me. "Did you lose this by accident or—" I cut her off, finishing her sentence. I threw it away. The tips of her fingers, resting on the box, trembled slightly. She nodded, a look of dawning comprehension on her face. "I see." She had thought it was a sign, some twist of fate. But in reality, it was just a piece of the past I had already decided to throw away. A shadow of defeat crossed her features. My gaze followed hers down to her wrist, and I saw she was wearing the Audemars Piguet watch I had given her. In the past, she never gave a second glance to any gift I bought her, let alone wore it every day. Chloe noticed me looking. "Your anniversary gift," she said softly. "I love it," she added. "Actually, I've loved every gift you've ever given me." I shook my head. "If you had said that sooner, maybe things would be different. But there are no what-ifs in life." Hearing my words, Chloe's hand tightened around another box in her pocket. One I knew contained the matching men's version of the watch on her wrist. She had clearly intended to give it to me, a belated anniversary gift to make amends. But now there was no point. I said nothing more, and Chloe took the hint and stood up to leave. "Ethan," she said. I just grunted in response. She started to reach out a hand, then pulled it back. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice heavy with sincerity. I didn't say anything. I couldn't bring myself to say, "It's okay," on behalf of the man I used to be. Chloe didn't press the issue. Before she turned to go, she just stood there and looked at me for a long, uncomfortable moment. Thankfully, she looked away just before I was about to say something. After she left, I arranged to swap classes with another teacher and didn't go back to school that day. I looked at the diamond ring on the coffee table. After a moment's thought, I decided I'd have the diamond removed and made into a little charm for my cat's collar. When I woke up from my nap, I had a new text message. It was Alex, asking to meet me at a coffee shop. I arrived at 5 o'clock sharp. The man sitting across from me was a far cry from the polished professional I'd met in Chicago. Alex looked haggard, with dark circles under his eyes. He was the first to speak. "Mr. Miller, I know Chloe has been coming to see you. What? Did you forget what you said? Are you planning to get back together with her?" I frowned at his resentful tone. "Alex, what right do you have to ask me that? When I was her husband, you were the other man. I ignored your little games back then because I was trying to save my marriage. But now you're still showing up in my face. Do you think I'm some kind of pushover?" Alex seemed shocked by my directness. He stared at me blankly for a second before his anger flared. "How dare you call me the other man? Your marriage was a sham from the start, wasn't it? You humiliated yourself by chasing her to Chicago. You know she loves me. She always has and she always will. Ethan, if I were you, I'd have packed my bags and moved to a different city by now. His outburst drew the attention of several other customers, who were now staring at him with expressions of disapproval and disgust. Alex eventually noticed their stares, but instead of feeling embarrassed, he just glared at me with even more intensity. He stood up abruptly, as if he was about to hit me, but just as he raised his hand, it was caught by Chloe, who had just rushed in. She looked at Alex, her voice dangerously low. "Were you about to hit Ethan?" Alex struggled in her grip, his voice rising to a hysterical pitch. "So what if I was? He was just your consolation prize, the guy you settled for, but now you're losing sleep over him. Your heart is breaking for him. Why shouldn't I hit him? He's ruining everything." Chloe had clearly had enough. She slapped him hard across the face, cutting him off mid-sentence. The entire coffee shop went silent. Alex stared at her, stunned, slowly raising a hand to his stinging cheek. "Chloe," he said in disbelief, "you hit me? For him?" With everyone watching, Chloe closed her eyes, her voice filled with exhaustion. "Alex, this is my fault. I'm the one who didn't manage our boundaries properly for the last year and a half. Don't drag Ethan into this." Then she looked at me. "You should go," she said softly. "I'll handle this." I nodded, but Alex exploded again. "You can't leave," he shouted, his eyes red with tears. "Ethan, I just need you to answer one question. Are you completely over her? Do you not love her anymore? Just tell me that, and I swear I will never bother you again." Chloe's breath caught in her throat. She bit her lip, her eyes fixed on me, as if my answer were a guillotine poised to fall. Chloe and I made eye contact for a split second before both of us quickly looked away. I turned back to the emotional wreck that was Alex and shook my head wearily. "Alex, if you harass me again, I'm calling the police. You might not be a citizen, but I'm pretty sure they can still hold you for a night." I paused, then added, "And as for your question, that's my private business. I have no obligation to answer you." With that, I walked out of the coffee shop without a second glance at either of them, and I never found out what kind of scene they made after I left. In the parking garage, Alex was like a different person, hysterical and raving like a madman. "How could you do this? You're supposed to love me most. How can you go back to him? You're divorced. You promised you'd stay in Chicago with me." Chloe pressed her fingers to her temples, suddenly finding Alex completely irrational. "I've told you and everyone else countless times, Alex. We are in the past. The way I treated you, just like Ethan said, it was just me being hung up on my first love. I was wrong." Alex's voice rose. "You were wrong? How can you say that now?" Tears streamed down his face, making him look pathetic. "Have you forgotten what you said the day Ethan came to Chicago? I said he wasn't your type, and you said being your type wasn't important as long as he was a good fit. Have you forgotten that we signed organ donor cards together in college, promising to be together in life and in death? Have you forgotten all of that?" Chloe looked at him calmly, not reaching out to wipe his tears as she would have before. "I remember, but that's all in the past. Alex, you have to move on. We're both back in Boston now. Your ex-wife can't hurt you anymore, and I need to get my own life back on track." Her voice suddenly softened, and a gentle look came over her face, as if she were thinking of something precious. "In the 6 months since Ethan and I separated, I've had a lot of time to think. I've realized that all I ever really wanted was a light left on for me at home, and someone waiting for me in their usual spot. And for 5 years, Ethan did that. He waited for me, silently swallowing his hurt, all alone. Do you have any idea how much my heart ached when I finally realized that? All my life, I've done right by everyone. My parents, my patients, my friends, even you. I've always tried to be perfect. But Ethan, my husband, the one person I should have cherished and protected above all others, was the one I neglected the most." Chloe looked at Alex, her expression grave. "Alex, it doesn't matter if Ethan still loves me, or if he'll ever take me back. You and I are impossible. I've made my peace with the regrets of my youth." She spoke each word with finality. "You and I are over." Meanwhile, on my way home, my car had the bad luck to break down on the side of the road. I was just about to call for a tow truck when a Mercedes G-Wagon pulled up in front of me. A woman with a cool, composed expression got out. Her voice was just as cool. "Need a hand?" I instinctively frowned and took a wary step back. "I've already called for a tow." The woman nodded, then rolled up her sleeves and popped the hood of my car. She looked at it for a moment, then said casually, "Your battery's dead. If you don't mind, I can give you a jump. It'll be enough to get you home." Hearing that, I cautiously moved closer, keeping a polite distance. "How?" The woman pulled her G-Wagon up until our cars were almost touching, then performed a series of actions with some cables that I didn't understand at all. She dusted off her hands and closed my hood. "All right, give it a try now." Then she moved her G-Wagon a little ways off. Luckily, It was a quiet road with hardly any traffic. I got in my car, turned the key, and sure enough, the engine started. As I drove past her G-Wagon, I rolled down my window and pulled out my phone. "Thank you so much. Can I send you some money for your trouble?" Money seemed like the easiest way to thank her, but she refused. Her expression was still unreadable. "I don't need the money. If fate brings us together again, you can buy me dinner. If not, just consider it a good deed." With that, she hit the gas, and the G-Wagon sped off, disappearing from sight in seconds. I put my phone away, figuring I just met a very kind, very cool stranger, and didn't think much more of her words. When I got home, I had another iMessage from Chloe. "I'm sorry about what happened today. I won't let Alex bother you again." I replied with a single word, "Okay." A few moments later, another message came through. "The question Alex asked you today, can I know the answer?" She quickly added, "It's okay if you don't want to answer." I looked at the two messages and sighed. I thought I had made myself perfectly clear the other day. I wanted no contact, which should have ended any possibility of this. Apparently, I hadn't been clear enough. This time, I typed out a careful, deliberate reply. "Chloe, I've always been the kind of person who can let things go. The moment I threw away my wedding ring, I stopped loving you. Even if there were lingering feelings back then, it's been 6 months. All the love, all the hate, it's all gone now. I told you before, if you can stop talking about getting back together and stop harassing me, we can be friends. If you can't do that, then we need to be strangers. Please don't contact me again." I saw the typing indicator appear and disappear in her chat bubble for a long time. Finally, a single message came through. "I understand. I won't cross that line again." I didn't reply. I just went to take a shower. When I got out of the shower, I saw a notification for a $40,000 bank transfer. The note from Chloe read, "For the anniversary gift. We're even." Seeing those words, I didn't send the money back. If she wanted to pay me back, fine. It was more than the watch was worth, but I figured I'd consider the extra a compensation payment. Only a fool turns down free money, and I wasn't about to be sanctimonious about it. Just then, a new friend request popped up on my iMessage. The profile picture was a cream-colored cat, and the username was just a single word, "read." I never accept requests from strangers, so I declined it without a second thought. But a moment later, the same person sent another request, this time with just a question mark in the message. I couldn't help but type back in the reply field, "What's the question mark for? Who is this?" The reply was instant. "Didn't you get the school memo? We're going to the seminar in Portland tomorrow. You're riding with me." It slowly dawned on me that the school was, in fact, organizing a professional development trip to Portland for the junior faculty. I had signed up late because of all the drama with Chloe and the flowers, so I'd been automatically assigned to the last carpool group. I hadn't paid any attention to who else was in it. I quickly accepted the request and sent a message. "Hi, I'm Ethan Miller. I teach sophomore honors English." The reply was extremely brief. "Maya Reed." I was about to screenshot the conversation to complain to my friend about how cold she was, when another message came through from Maya. "Meet at the main gate tomorrow. It's just the two of us in our group. I drive a Mercedes G-Wagon. License plate is MA8888. Reading that, I couldn't help but think of the G-Wagon from earlier that evening. Couldn't be that much of a coincidence, could it? The next morning, I arrived at the school gate right on time, but a few other teachers were already there. They greeted me with knowing smiles. "Ethan, looks like your bad luck turned into good luck. I hear Ms. Reed transferred from that prestigious academy downtown. She's gorgeous, and she just got here and already organized this whole trip. She's really something. Since you're over your Dr. ex-wife, you should definitely consider Ms. Reed. She's a total catch." Listening to them, I started to piece together a picture of Maya Reed. Around my age, beautiful, single, and apparently from an influential family. For some reason, the image of the woman who had helped me with my car flashed in my mind. Just then, the other teachers started getting into their cars, and soon I was the only one left, standing there alone with my suitcase. I checked my watch. The departure time was fast approaching. If this Maya Reed turned out to be late, it wouldn't be a good start. I can't stand unpunctual people. Just as I was thinking that, a G-Wagon pulled up smoothly in front of me. It was the exact same one from the day before. Before I could even process it, Maya was getting out of the car. Our eyes met, and I could see the hint of a smile in hers. "Mr. Miller, I presume? Looks like you owe me that dinner after all." I nodded, then shook my head, still a bit dazed. Maya teased, "Having second thoughts?" I was still trying to wrap my head around it as she effortlessly lifted my suitcase and tossed it into the back of her car. She opened the passenger door for me, but I still didn't move. "Mr. Miller," she joked, "you're not planning on sitting in the back, are you? It's only a 60-mile drive to Portland. but I'll need you to help with the GPS and keep me company so I don't fall asleep at the wheel." Her words finally snapped me out of it, and I blurted out the question that was on my mind. "Ms. Reed, when you sent me that friend request yesterday, did you already know I was the unlucky guy whose car broke down?" Maya didn't deny it. "Of course. You posted on Facebook thanking an anonymous Good Samaritan. How could I not know? I even liked your post." I scrambled to open my phone, and sure enough, there was a new like on my post from Maya Reed. She spoke again, her tone full of meaning. "Mr. Miller, it seems we're quite destined to meet." I didn't know what to say to that. The connections between people were the most unpredictable things in the world. I ignored the notification from Chloe and got into Maya's passenger seat. I waited until we were well on our way before I started replying to my iMessages. First, I let my colleagues know I had safely met up with Ms. Reed. Then I texted my best friend, even sneaking a picture of Maya's profile to send him, which elicited a string of excited replies. Finally, I opened my conversation with Chloe. "Ethan, Alex and I are completely over. My parents are still at the old house, and they said you should come over for dinner sometime if you're free. Don't worry, I won't be there. I don't want to make you uncomfortable." To be honest, I was curious what completely over really meant. Did it mean she had deleted his number and told him to never contact her again? Or was it just for show, and she would go running back the second he needed her? Curious or not, I didn't ask. I just replied, "Okay." The typing indicator appeared in her chat bubble for a long time, but by the time Maya and I had checked into our hotel in Portland, she still hadn't sent anything else. The hotel was a 5-star, and the school had booked out nearly the entire top floor. We were assigned either single or double rooms. I was lucky enough to get a single with Maya right across the hall. So, I told her I'd take her to dinner later to repay her for the jumpstart, and she could pick any restaurant she wanted. Back in my room, I started unpacking. The trip was for 2 weeks, so I had brought a lot with me. I had just finished unpacking when my former mother-in-law called. I answered. She always spoke her mind. "Ethan, Chloe told you, right? If you have time, you should come over. Your uncle and I will make all your favorite foods. Otherwise, you'd have to fly all the way to Florida just to get a home-cooked meal." I was touched by her words. My own parents had retired to a small town on the coast of Florida and were living a quiet, leisurely life. As long as they knew I was safe, they rarely called or texted. As my mom always said, "Your father and I raised you. Now it's our turn to enjoy our lives, just the two of us." Then her mother spoke again. "Normally, your uncle and I wouldn't get involved in your and Chloe's business. But Ethan, is there really no chance for you two? Chloe was just manipulated by Alex. We're only just finding out now that the story he told about his ex-wife wasn't true. I'm not saying what he did was right, but he was pushed to his limit. He started some medical venture that went bankrupt, and his ex-wife was the one left paying off all his debts." I held the phone, my emotions in a knot. But one thing was clear. Even if Alex's story was complicated, Chloe's feelings for him had been real. She had chosen him over me time and time again. That was something I could never forgive. After a few seconds of silence, I answered honestly. "Mrs. Davis, there's really no going back for me and Chloe. I just can't get past what happened. Maybe in 5 or 10 years I'll be over it, but by then we'll both have moved on with other people." Her mother quickly disagreed. "No, that's not true. I know Chloe. She's stubborn. Now that she realizes she loves you, she'll never be able to let you go if you don't forgive her." "Ethan, I'm not trying to pressure you. It's just, you loved her so much. Can't you give her a chance to love you back?" I was about to answer when there was a sharp knock at my door. Mrs. Davis must have heard it because she said understandingly, "You think about it, Ethan. I won't bother you anymore." Then she hung up. I smoothed out my wrinkled clothes, got up, and went to the door. I pulled it open to find Maya with her hand raised to knock again. She raised an eyebrow at me. "Mr. Miller," she said, "I'm hungry." She looked nothing like the cool, aloof woman I had first met. She was more like an eager puppy. I couldn't help but laugh. Maya looked a little confused, but she started laughing too. When we finally stopped, I rubbed my aching cheeks. "What were you laughing at?" I asked. She answered without hesitation. "I don't know. You were laughing, so I started laughing too." I was beginning to think that Maya only looked aloof. On the inside, she was a total softie. Maya seemed to know Portland like the back of her hand. She led me confidently through a maze of streets and alleys until we ended up on a charming, historic lane. Seeing my curious look, she explained, "My mother was from Portland, so I used to come here all the time. This place has the best local specialties, amazing lobster rolls and blueberry pie, and the tea is from a 100-year-old family business." I had to suppress another laugh. She delivered the line so seriously, it sounded like a rehearsed commercial. The tips of her ears turned red under my amused gaze, and she quickly excused herself to go order. As I watched her beat a hasty retreat, I took a moment to look around the elegant little restaurant, a hidden gem in the middle of the city. An antique display case served as a screen, and behind it, the space opened up into a courtyard with walls covered in climbing roses. At some point, Maya had come to stand beside me. "This one is called Eden," she said softly, "and that one further down is called New Dawn. There's also Graham Thomas, Blue Moon, and Tequila Sunrise. That's why the restaurant is called the Rose Garden." "The Rose Garden," I repeated, looking at her profile. "How do you know all this?" I asked. "Do you bring your colleagues here a lot?" Maya seemed to disapprove of my question. She blinked. "This is a very special place to me. I wouldn't bring just anyone here." I was taken aback. There was that word again, destined. I couldn't help but tease her. "You really believe in all that fate stuff? We're teachers, you know. We're not supposed to be superstitious." Maya shot me a look, her tone dry. "If you don't believe in it, then why did you wear a red shirt for good luck on the day of the college entrance exams? And why did you go to the Hilltop Chapel to light the first candle of the new year for your students?" At her words, my eyes narrowed. She seemed to realize she'd said too much and quickly changed the subject. "The food should be ready. I'll take you upstairs." The table by the window on the second floor had a perfect view of the courtyard below, as well as the lake in the distance. Maya poured me a cup of jasmine tea just as the server arrived with our food. Dish after dish was placed on the table, all of them flower-themed: chrysanthemum-shaped fish, rose petal soup, eggs scrambled with jasmine, and crispy fried magnolia petals. The final dish was a miniature peach tree. As a spring rain of warm water was poured over it, the tiny, edible flower buds burst into bloom. I was amazed by the owner's clever and beautiful presentation. Maya watched me, a proud little smile on her face. "So, am I forgiven for what I said earlier?" If she hadn't brought it up, I would have already forgotten about it, completely captivated by the food. But now that she had, my curiosity was piqued again. "So how do you know all that about me?" That was 3 years ago, during my second year of marriage to Chloe, with the last graduating class I taught before switching grades. "How could you possibly know about that?" Maya was silent for a long time, then she looked up and met my gaze without blinking. She said softly, "Ethan, you stand on a bridge enjoying the view, while someone in a window enjoys the view of you." She was quoting a famous modern poem. As an English teacher, I understood the implication immediately, and I felt my face flush. For a moment, I was too embarrassed to meet her intense, affectionate gaze. Maya looked at me steadily, pressing her advantage. "Ethan, I know you're divorced, so yes, everything you were just wondering is true. None of it was a coincidence. I created those opportunities to meet you, to get to know you." She paused, then decided to tell me everything. "This restaurant, my mother owned it. She always told me that if I ever found someone I really liked, I should bring them here. So, if you feel like I've been manipulative, or if any of this makes you uncomfortable, I'll take you back to the hotel after we eat, and I promise you'll never see or hear from me again." I was silent for a long time after she said that. Finally, I looked at her again. "And your mother?" I asked softly. Maya's expression faltered, and a deep sadness filled her eyes. "That first candle of the year, I was lighting it for her. She was very sick. I think meeting you that day was her last gift to me." I suddenly didn't know what to say. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I didn't know." Maya gave a small, sad smile. "It's not your fault." Then she apologized again. "I shouldn't have brought it up. I've just made you feel awkward." We looked at each other and, for some reason, both started to laugh. Two people who had just met, already apologizing to each other over their first dinner. Maya was the one to break the silence. "We should eat before it gets cold. You can take some of the leftovers back with you if you want." I nodded. The meal had started with a bit of awkwardness, but it ended up being incredibly enjoyable. Maya was a physics teacher, but her mother was one of my favorite authors. Having grown up surrounded by books, Maya could talk for hours about literature. After dinner, she asked cautiously, "So, can we still see each other after this?" I smiled. "The view here is beautiful, and the food is amazing. I'd love to come back again sometime." Hearing that, Maya let out a breath she seemed to have been holding and broke into a genuine, radiant smile. I had never seen her smile like that before, and for a moment, I was completely captivated. Just then, a familiar voice called out, "Ethan." Maya and I both turned to the door. Chloe was standing there, looking travel-worn and out of breath. I frowned, and Maya instinctively moved to stand slightly in front of me. Chloe's eyes reddened at the small, protective gesture, and she strode toward us. She fought to control her emotions as she confronted Maya. "Who are you? What right do you have to bring him here?" Maya's expression was blank, but the atmosphere around her suddenly turned icy. "What business is it of yours?" she said, her voice dangerously low. "You're his ex-wife. Don't you think you're overstepping?" The words ex-wife hit Chloe like a physical blow. Her face fell, but she quickly turned to me. "Ethan, I came to see you. Can we please go somewhere else to talk?" I had thought Chloe had finally accepted things, but clearly, I was wrong. Looking at her pale, grief-stricken face, I felt a surge of irritation. "How long are you going to keep this up? This obsessive behavior isn't really your style, is it, Doctor?" My words seemed to freeze her in place. Her lips trembled, and her voice was laced with bitterness. "Ethan, I just want you to give me one more chance. A chance to love you." Before I could even respond, Maya said coldly, "That's not going to happen." Maya looked directly at Chloe and said, enunciating each word, "Absolutely not. As long as I'm around, you will not get that chance." Seeing that a full-blown confrontation was about to erupt, I quickly tugged on Maya's sleeve, trying to signal to her that arguing was pointless. Maya glanced back at me, her voice softening. "It's okay. Don't worry. I won't let her harass you." Chloe saw our small exchange, and the color drained from her face. She swayed on her feet, looking as if she might collapse. "So this is why," she whispered. "This is why you won't take me back." I didn't know what had set her off, but she was suddenly like a different person. The look in her eyes was so intense, so obsessive, it was starting to frighten me. I couldn't help but remember what her mother had said. "Chloe is stubborn. She won't stop until she gets what she wants." Just then, Maya spoke again. "Dr. Davis, just because you're not getting your way, it doesn't give you the right to make baseless accusations against Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller and I only met 3 days ago. We're having dinner because we're partners for this work conference. He's not refusing to get back with you out of some childish spite or for revenge. It's a decision he has made after a great deal of thought." She paused, a wicked little smile playing on her lips. "Besides, you've been divorced for 6 months. Is it so strange that he might have other women interested in him? You're not the only one in the world who can see what a great guy he is. You were just the lucky one who got to him first." At her words, Chloe's face went completely pale. She ignored Maya and took a step toward me. "Ethan, you loved me for 6 years. Can you really just let all of that go? I know what I did wrong. I'll never cross the line with another man again. I'll never ignore you or take you for granted." Her words came out in a rush. "I know you're allergic to daisies, and that you're lactose intolerant. I'll let you get a cat or a dog. I won't make you stick to my schedule. I won't let you be the only one making sacrifices." I couldn't listen to any more of it. "Enough," I shouted. I stepped out from behind Maya and looked at Chloe coldly. "Besides the allergy, you've always known what the real problems were, haven't you? All the little things that destroyed our marriage." I continued, "Chloe, I never understood why you were so kind and considerate to everyone in the world except for me. But I finally figured it out. It's because I started things off all wrong." I clenched my fists, but my voice became calmer, more measured. "By putting you on a pedestal from the very beginning, I gave you implicit permission to treat me however you wanted. But that's not how it works. Love is supposed to be a partnership of equals. I'm a person, a living, breathing human being, and my parents raised me with love and care. I will not allow anyone, not even someone I once loved with all my heart, to trample on me and hurt me in the name of love." With that, I turned to Maya. "Let's go. Don't we have that outdoor activity tomorrow?" Then I walked away without a backward glance. Maya pressed her lips together and quickly fell into step beside me. Neither of us gave a second glance to Chloe, who was left standing frozen in the middle of the restaurant. Back at the hotel, I was just about to unlock my door when Maya called my name. "Ethan." I turned around. In the dim light of the hallway, her expression was serious. "What you just said back there, that was really cool." The tips of her ears were turning red, and she suddenly seemed to be struggling with her words. "And what I said about admiring you, I meant it. If you really do have a lot of other women interested in you, can I be first in line?" At that, I burst out laughing again, laughing so hard I had to bend over, clutching my stomach, tears welling in my eyes. Maya was getting annoyed. She grabbed my arm, her teeth clenched. "Why are you laughing? I was being serious." It took me forever to work up the courage to say that. I looked at her, her cheeks puffed out in a pout, and found it incredibly endearing. I straightened up and said, "Seriously, when we get back to Boston, you should come with me to the animal shelter. I'm thinking of getting a dog." Maya pointed to herself. "With me?" I suppressed my smile and nodded, my expression completely serious. She frowned, looking at me skeptically. "Are you serious?" Just as I was about to answer, one of our colleagues walked over. "Ethan, Maya, what are you two talking about? You look so happy." Her loud voice drew the attention of the other teachers, and soon we were surrounded. A chorus of questions erupted. We heard you two went out to dinner. Where did you go? Was it romantic? How was the drive over? Did you two get along? Do you want me to swap with Ethan for the drive back? To that last question, Maya and I answered in unison, no. We looked at each other and both burst out laughing. Seeing this, the other teachers started teasing us even more. I couldn't handle the teasing. I gave Maya a gentle push toward the group, then quickly ducked into my room and shut the door. Listening to them all swarm her with questions, I couldn't help but smile. Just then, my phone rang. It was Alex. I didn't want to talk to him, so I blocked the number. A moment later, another unknown number called. Then another. It was clear he wasn't going to give up. I sighed and finally answered. The person on the other end seemed surprised that I had picked up. For a moment, all I could hear was heavy breathing. Then, Alex's hoarse voice came through the line. Ethan, did Chloe come and find you again today? I had no desire to answer his obvious question, so I just set my phone down and started working on my laptop. Alex kept talking, his voice rambling. I don't know how Chloe and I ended up like this. Did you know? After we saw you at the coffee shop, she told me we were done, that we should never see each other again. I don't understand. We were so happy in Chicago. Ethan, I don't know what to do. I'm in so much debt. I can't lose her too. I typed the last word of my email, then picked up my phone. So, I said dryly, are you calling to ask me for money or for relationship advice? I was almost impressed with myself for being able to make a joke at a time like this. Alex seemed stunned into silence. After a moment, I continued. Look, I got a decent settlement from the divorce, but it was what I was owed. And it's all tied up in long-term investments now, so I can't lend you anything. As for relationship advice, I don't think my track record makes me much of an expert. You've really called the wrong guy. Alex quickly stammered. I'm not calling to ask for money, and I'm not. Then what do you want? I cut him off. Alex, I'm gonna tell you this one last time. Chloe and I are done. And man to man, let me give you some advice. Focusing all your energy on a woman is a waste of time. All it does is slow you down. I don't know if he was even listening. I was about to hang up when he spoke again, his voice suddenly serious. Ethan, don't you hate me? I was a little taken aback. I guess I used to dislike you. You have no sense of boundaries or shame. But the more I think about it, the more I realize it was all Chloe's fault. If she had truly loved you, she never would have married me in the first place. And if she had truly loved me, she never would have kept you dangling on the line, only to end up hurting you too. Alex was silent for a long time. Finally, his voice thick with emotion, he said, I understand, thank you, and I'm sorry. I had no idea how sincere his apology was, but it was a strange moment. Two men, once rivals over the same woman, now finding a strange sort of common ground. It was ironic and sad and a little pathetic. I made a silent promise to myself then and there. I would never again give my whole heart so easily to anyone. Love makes you lose your mind. I looked at the number on my call log and, instead of blocking it, I saved it under the name Alex. That night, whether from exhaustion or from finally letting go of all my baggage, I slept more soundly than I had in years. I slept so deeply that I didn't even hear the multiple calls from Maya the next morning. I was woken by the feeling of someone staring at me. I snapped my eyes open to see a face right in front of mine, and in my panic, I instinctively threw a pillow at it. I heard a yelp of pain, and any lingering sleepiness vanished instantly. I suddenly remembered that I had brought my own buckwheat pillow, and it was heavy. Are you okay? I asked, suddenly worried. Maya was sitting on the floor, clutching the side of her face. She didn't answer, which only made me more anxious. I leaned in closer to see if I had actually hurt her. As I got closer, she suddenly dropped her hand and lunged toward me playfully. Suddenly, we were so close I could hear her heart beating, or maybe it was my own. I blinked slowly, feeling a blush creep up my neck. Just then, a loud voice boomed from the doorway. Maya, is Ethan awake yet? Maya and I both looked up. It was my closest colleague from school, Ryan. Seeing us so close, he threw a hand over his eyes, then peeked through his fingers. Don't mind me, he said. Just pretend I'm not here. I couldn't help but laugh. I stood up and offered Maya a hand. Get up, you faker. I didn't even hit you. How did you guys get in here anyway? Ryan answered, I got a key from the front desk, of course. If I hadn't come to help you pack for the hike today, you'd still be sleeping, and Ms. Reed wouldn't have had to come wake you up. Maya took my hand and let me pull her to her feet. She smiled at Ryan. Well, thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Johnson. Anytime, Ryan said with a wink. I'm rooting for you too. I couldn't watch their back and forth anymore. I turned and headed for the bathroom. Give me 15 minutes, and I'll be ready to go. Okay. Today's activity was a trip to Portland's famous botanical garden. I'd heard the azaleas were in full bloom, a sea of vibrant color. I was in the passenger seat of Maya's G-Wagon again, only this time, Ryan was in the back, chattering away and passing us snacks. The drive was certainly not boring. At the gardens, I collected a bag full of fallen blossoms, planning to press them later to make bookmarks for my students. Maya followed behind me with a small camcorder, filming everything. I didn't mind, I just told her not to catch me at any unflattering angles. Just then, a breeze rustled through the trees, sending a shower of petals down around me. I stood there, in a rain of flowers, and it felt like a dream. Maya just stood there, watching, the camera forgotten in her hand. And of course, that was the moment my phone decided to ring. I pulled it out. It was Chloe's mother. I answered with a frown. Her voice was frantic. "Ethan, you have to come back. Chloe, she did something stupid." She was speaking so loudly that Maya heard every word. We looked at each other, both of us frowning. I had known Chloe for 6 years. She was the most calm, rational, almost robotic person I had ever met. Why would she try to kill herself? But she was still my ex-wife, and her mother had called me in a panic. I had to go back. I took a leave of absence from the conference and was about to book a flight when Maya stopped me. "I'm coming with you," she said, her tone serious. Fearing I would say no, she quickly added, "We can fly first class, and I'll drive you straight to the hospital from the airport. I'll have someone drive my car back." She had it all figured out, so I didn't argue. By the time we got to the hospital, Chloe was out of immediate danger, but she was in the ICU. I stood outside the glass, looking at her lying there, so still and fragile, and I didn't know what to feel. Her mother came over, wiping tears from her eyes. "She's a doctor. She knew exactly what to do to. She was trying to die. The doctors here said that even though they saved her, she'll never be able to practice medicine again." The implication was clear. She had damaged the nerves in her hands. My stomach dropped. "Mrs. Davis?" I started, trying to offer some comfort. "She's so brilliant. Even if she can't be a surgeon, she can still." I trailed off. The words felt hollow and useless. Her mother was consumed with guilt. "It's all my fault. I raised her to be this way, so extreme. Thank you for coming to see her, Ethan. You're a good man. I had hoped there might still be a chance for you too, now that she was finally willing to change. But I see now that was just wishful thinking." She squeezed my hand. "I'll never bring it up again. Let the past be the past. I'll take Chloe away from here. I promise she will never bother you again." "You guys." I turned and saw Maya standing a few feet away, looking small and lost. I sighed. After a few more words with Mrs. Davis, I walked over to Maya. "Let's go." She looked shocked. "We're leaving now?" I shot her a look. "If you want to stay, be my guest." "I'm coming," she said quickly, then muttered under her breath. "I thought you were going to have a change of heart and stay here until she woke up." I gave her arm a gentle pinch. "I'm not her doctor, and I'm not her nurse. What would be the point of me staying here? An ex-husband needs to act like an ex-husband." My words made her laugh, and the worry in her eyes vanished. We didn't go back to Portland. We went straight back to Boston. 2 weeks later, I got a text from Mrs. Davis. Chloe was awake, and they were taking her to a rehabilitation center in New York. I replied, "Okay, I wish you both a safe trip." After that, I had no further contact with Chloe or her family. Time flew by. 3 months later, Maya and I made our relationship official. One evening, as I was walking home, I saw someone on my street from behind who looked exactly like Chloe. By the time I got a closer look, she was gone. That night, I found 15 bouquets of flowers on my doorstep. I looked at the cards. 5 of them read, "Ethan, happy anniversary." Another 5 read, "Ethan, happy Valentine's Day." And the last 5, "Ethan, happy birthday." I knew then that the flowers were from Chloe. I hadn't been mistaken earlier. It really had been her. Tucked inside each bouquet was a gift, a necklace, a watch, a gift card. I frowned. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Ethan, my family and I have moved to New York. We won't be coming back. Do whatever you want with these things. I wish you and Maya all the happiness in the world." I didn't reply. After talking it over with Maya, I sold the gifts and transferred the money to Chloe's account. A short time later, she transferred a huge sum of money back to me and then blocked her account from receiving transfers from non-contacts. Her number was disconnected, and just like that, Chloe and I disappeared from each other's lives for good. The days passed, and soon it was time for my students' college entrance exams again. This time, Maya and I went to the Hilltop Chapel together to light the first candle of the new year. We went early on New Year's Day, and the chapel was still empty. I asked Maya, "Do you remember what I looked like the first time you saw me?" She looked at me, her expression thoughtful. "Your hair was shorter then, and you were thinner. You were kneeling there, and you looked so ethereal." I thought to myself then, If fate ever gave me the chance, I had to get to know you. I rolled my eyes at her. Are you saying I'm fat and ugly now? Maya quickly waved her hands in protest. No, that's not what I meant at all. You just looked so sad back then. It broke my heart. I thought if I ever got to know you, I'd make sure you gained 10 pounds and looked healthy and happy. Such a nice way of saying you just thought I was hot, I teased, pinching her cheek. And don't you be talking like that in a chapel. Maya let out a little squeal, completely shedding the cool, aloof persona from our first meeting. I couldn't help but laugh. I was so used to Chloe, who was kind to everyone but cold to me. Maya was the opposite. With me, she was warm, goofy, silly, and loving. With everyone else, she was polite but distant. This, I thought, is what love is supposed to be. Being your complete, true self with the person you love. Maya and I knelt together before the altar, and I respectfully raised the candle in my hands. This time, in addition to praying for my students, I made a wish for myself and Maya, that we would have a long and happy life together, and always be true to each other. After we got back, our parents met for dinner. The two families got along wonderfully, and we spent the evening discussing wedding dates, venues, and guest lists. We set the date for 3 days after the final exams ended. I was happy to let Maya take the lead on the planning, just giving my approval where needed. Of course, I insisted on being there for the dress fitting. Maya was determined to have the most beautiful, most expensive dress she could find, something I would never forget. I knew she was just trying to outdo my first wedding. She could be so childish sometimes, always secretly competing with the ghost of my ex-wife. But the truth was, unless she brought it up, I never even thought about Chloe anymore. Those 6 miserable years felt like a distant dream, a tiny, insignificant blip in the grand scheme of my life. I realized that I had been the good one all along, not her. And so, I had a clear conscience. I had done right by myself, and I had done right by her. On the day of the final exams, I wore my lucky red shirt to wish my students success. Watching them walk into the exam hall full of determination, and then walk out looking confident and relieved, I felt a deep sense of pride. 3 days later, at the Mandarin Oriental Hotel, Maya and I were married. We weren't in a church, but Maya, ever the traditionalist, had invited an old minister to officiate. In front of all our friends and family, the minister looked at us and asked, Maya, do you take this man to be your husband, to live together in holy matrimony, to love him, to comfort him, honor and keep him, in sickness and in health, and forsaking all others, be faithful to him as long as you both shall live? Maya looked into my eyes and said firmly, I do. The minister then turned to me. Ethan, do you take this woman to be your wife, to live together in holy matrimony, to love her, to comfort her, honor and keep her, in sickness and in health, and forsaking all others, be faithful to her as long as you both shall live? Without a moment's hesitation, I said, I do. Flower petals rained down around us, and to the sound of cheers and applause, I lifted Maya's veil and gave her a long, tender kiss. In that moment, the happiness I had been waiting for was finally mine. And so, the one who had given his heart so freely finally found his own happy ending. On the day Ethan and Maya got married, I was there. I sent a wedding gift of $10,000 under a false name. It was a foolish, self-deceiving act, I know, but I had promised Ethan I would never bother him again. Honestly, his wedding to Maya was far grander, far more beautiful than ours had ever been. The flowers, the reception, the officiant, every single detail showed how much Maya and her family adored Ethan. I couldn't help but think back to my own wedding day, 5 years ago. The chaotic schedule, the decorations being blown away by the wind, the impatience of my own family. I only realized much later that Ethan had been putting up with things from the very first day of our marriage. He put up with the bad luck, the family drama, my coldness and indifference, and the constant criticism from my parents. Yes, in the beginning, even my own parents didn't approve of him. They always thought I should marry someone from a similar background, someone brilliant with a promising career. Alex's family hadn't been wealthy enough, and Ethan, while from a good family, was just a high school teacher. Not a suitable match for a chief resident. I didn't care about any of that at the time. All I thought was, if it couldn't be Alex, it didn't matter who I married, as long as they were a decent person. And Ethan loved me. He loved me more than anyone had ever loved me. It was so obvious, so unconditional, that a part of me, the arrogant, entitled part, wanted to see just how far I could push him. Can a person really love another person so enduringly? Even with nothing in return? Even when they are ignored and neglected and hurt? I admit, I am a flawed person, full of dark and selfish impulses. It's just that, in our society, I was wrapped in the pretty packaging of my degrees, my looks, and my career. I thought our marriage would last 3 months, tops. But Ethan, he kept it going for 5 years. If I had only realized my own feelings sooner, if I hadn't kept testing the limits of his love for me, maybe we would still be together. Maybe we would even be happy. Ethan was right. I was hopelessly hung up on my first love. When I heard that Alex, the man who had left me after graduation to follow a professor to a new job, was miserable, I was satisfied. I thought, with a smug sense of superiority, that it was his punishment for leaving me. So I flew to Chicago, eager to swoop in and save him, to prove to him what a mistake he had made. I assumed Ethan would put up with it just like he always did. I thought I could keep it a secret until I got bored and decided to end it myself. But I never expected Ethan to show up in Chicago on our 5th anniversary. Seeing him standing there in the rain, my heart ached for him. But I never, ever imagined that he had learned Spanish for me. That was the final straw. Turned out, Ethan had been keeping score all along. A point for me when I came home on time. A point taken away when I refused to eat the special meal he had prepared for me. 5 years of additions and subtractions, and in the end, it all came crashing down. After the divorce, I was miserable. I slowly began to realize just how much I had gotten used to having Ethan in my life, in every little corner of it. I looked at the gifts I had saved in my online shopping cart but never bought for him, at the little trinkets I had collected for our home in Chicago, and for the first time I felt a pang of real regret. But it was too late. Ethan is a man of his word. When he said he was done, he meant it. I was tormented by my regret, day after day. I couldn't sleep, I started hearing things I couldn't eat. When I saw him standing there with Maya in Portland, my last bit of hope shattered. I finally understood that I would never get him back. When I got home, I tried to end my life, but my parents and the doctors saved me. My mother told me that for the last 5 years, Ethan had been the one taking care of them for me. If I died now, I would be forcing them to bury their own child. Looking at my mother's tears and my father's gray hair, I said nothing. Much later, I finally spoke. "Let's leave," I said. "Let's leave this city that is so full of him." For many years after that, I was alone. I never loved again, but I still dreamed of him, the Ethan who had once looked at me as if I were his entire world. I died 10 years after Ethan left me, from terminal cancer. On the day of my funeral, my spirit watched as my emaciated body was pushed into the cremator, as my parents wept inconsolably. At the burial, I saw him, Ethan. He walked up to my gravestone and placed a single white chrysanthemum on the earth. I heard him whisper, "Rest in peace, Chloe." And with that, my restless soul was finally free, scattering to the winds, ready for whatever came next.